Oh, that's coming. That's coming soon. Remember when Grandpa used to do this, that, and the other? But you bring up the NFL, and I know that you got to do some work with the Commanders, but that's not what I'm asking about. I've been watching the Patriots doc, and I don't know if you've watched the actual Dynasty doc that's on about the Patriots, but there's a lot of similarities between the Warriors, Joe Lacob, Bob Kraft, where New England was as an organization, where the Warriors were before you and Lacob and everybody got involved. And then there's a lot of differences. And one of the differences is, man, they were cutthroat. They were getting rid of guys left and right, and they were not loyal to the individual. And that is in stark contrast to what I believe the Warriors have done over the last decade, which it feels like to me you're talking about friendships and loyalties and how you're texting this guy and staying close with this person. Are they just two different sports? Do you view maybe your own time differently now that you've stepped away from it? Are you too close to these guys to be as cutthroat as Belichick was, or is it just the nature of the two sports being so uniquely different?
I think you said it. They're very different. They really are. I mean, the power of an NFL player is much different than the power of an NBA player. I've noticed that. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. Maybe because of the amount of players, Joe, maybe because of the fact that how many players are irreplaceable on a football team, whereas on a basketball team, if your fourth starter, let's say your fourth best player, demands a trade or something, or doesn't play well, or is a jerk in the locker room, that can ruin your team. But a football team, it's just even look at the contracts. You're seeing high level players cut.
Yep.
Real important players. They're not just traded; they're just cut. So, it's a different sport. You know what it is every game. It's almost day to day. It's almost we're going to go win this game, and every year's a new year. And in that type of environment, if you're not maybe a star quarterback or a left tackle or some position and you're so good at that position where you're going to be there and paid, it's just rare to find that in the NFL. I mean, you could be a really good player one year and then you fall off and then you're gone. It's a tough sport. I've realized that it's a hard sport for players. It's an awesome sport. I mean, NFL gets more attention, and I think you guys know because you're in media.
Right.
I had no idea. I thought I did because I worked in professional sports. Maybe you guys do. I don't know. Do you already know how big of a deal? I didn't know.
Bob,
it's a monster.
Bob, the urgency, the day-to-day of the NFL and just discussing the NFL. When we come on the show on the Monday morning, we don't have any guests. We just go guest free because people want to talk about it. They want to finger point. They want to say, this is the reason why we won it.
The lack of games, the lack of inventory makes everything such a sense of urgency.
The urgency. And I think that's the difference with football compared to baseball and compared to the NBA as well. And that's why the NBA, we see the in-season tournaments. We see the play-in situation here in both conferences. The NBA is desperately trying to create that sense of urgency. And to me, that's the biggest difference. And the players, it feels like in the NFL, are coming in a lot more prepared to play the NFL game because of the college system as opposed to the NBA. You know this, Bob. A lot of guys coming from the NBA, either out of high school, one and done. Do they have the maturity? It just feels like a lot of NFL players come in a little more mature than NBA players. I don't want to say that's a bad thing, but just look at the landscape of the NBA compared to the NFL with all the one and dones in college basketball, Bob.
Oh yeah, the draft is completely different. If you want to hit on that, but all the things you guys said are accurate. Every team thinks what's different about you go to the NBA season and you think, well, we're not going to win it this year, or we're not making the playoffs, and it's just probably accurate. It's not going to happen. I think every NFL team shows up in training camp thinking they're going to the playoffs. I mean, look what the Houston Texans did this year. Even the Rams. Everybody thought the Rams were just going to rebuild. All of a sudden, people were saying that this is the team the 49ers don't want to face in the NFC Championship.
Right.
Even you guys would have said, I think, hey, the Rams are done. They're not going to do anything. So the mindset. Now, in the NBA, there's probably 10 teams that go into the season, or 8 that say, we're not even trying to win. It's not going to happen. We're going to get a draft pick. So as to the draft, when you're in the room talking to, whether the Commanders people that I talk to or anybody, they would say, we're going to address that need in the draft. And when they're talking about addressing a need, they're addressing real positions. When you say we're going to get an edge rusher in the draft, they're expecting that guy to come in and be their starting guy or left tackle. In the NBA, you don't really say, we got the 5th pick in the draft. That guy's going to come help us win right now. We're going to plug him in. He's our starting small forward, and we're going to go win. But that's the difference between being 19 and 21, 22,
right?
Which is what is a huge difference. I mean, if the NBA drafted guys, seniors and juniors, first of all, we'd be a lot better at it, a lot better, because the difference between watching kids play for 1 year and 3 is night and day.
Yep.
It's what it used to be honest, in the NBA, but it probably will never be again. So if you guys were GMs in both sports, you'd feel much better about drafting in the NFL. Not that that's easy either,
right? Because
you have more time and more maturity when you're interviewing these guys. Big difference. You guys went to college between being 19 and 21. It's a huge difference, 19 and 22. So you have a better shot at it in the NFL. And the fact that these guys have played, 3 years at Michigan or 3 years at Alabama, that's like playing in the NFL.
Right. Yep.
So anyways, we could go on and on of that, but I don't want to take, so.
That brings to my other point. Like I'm looking at this team right now, a guy who played multiple seasons at Indiana, and Trace Jackson Davis. I mean, he's ready to contribute right away, and he's good to go. We know, everybody knows, like, number 2 overall pick, James Wiseman, it didn't work out, right? That was a tough year, COVID. He played like 3 games.
Right.
You didn't get a chance to see him and talk to him and the restrictions and everything that's going on here. But you're seeing what the Warriors are doing with these young guys right now. How do you feel when you see Jonathan Kuminga, playing up to the level that we see him playing at? Because I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, I said the same thing to him when I was driving out of the arena last week. Feels like a long time ago. It was last week. I was passing my car because they still let me. I was going to go in and park in Dunleavy's spot just to mess with him, but I didn't do it. I parked in some other spot. So I was leaving, and Kuminga was walking by, and I rolled down my window and I said, "Hey, man!" And I talked to him a little bit before the game, and I said what you just said. I said, "I'm really happy for you." I said because what people don't see about Jonathan. He did work really hard in what was not a straight line to what he is now. We all know, if you watch the Warriors closely, it's been up and down and all over the place with Kuminga's his path, which when you're a top 7 pick, people forget he's supposed to come in and dominate. That's what everybody around him thinks. That's what his expectations are. He deals with social media pushback or he's not playing. He's seeing his peers play a lot more, maybe less deservedly, but now he's reached a point where he's playing. He's earned it. He's got the trust of guys like Curry and Draymond and Clay and Kerr, which isn't easy to get. I think in the long run, it'll really help him. But I just told him what you guys said, which is congratulations. You're on your way. And by the way, very necessary for this team to do anything, for Kuminga to be a part of that. So I'm excited for him. I'm happy for him. I don't know if you guys interviewed him. He's a really nice kid. Can you imagine growing up in the Congo and coming over to a different it's crazy.
Yeah, no, Bob. Shasky and I, we got Premier Limos. Premier Limos was like, hey, we'll give you a ride service if you want to go to the California Classic, his first ever game. We fell in love with him in 5 minutes. And then we saw him at Media Day later that season, his rookie year. And we fell in love with him then. We were talking FIFA music, and JK's just a great kid, man. We love our interaction with him, man. He's a bright young man. We're talking to Bob Myers here on 95.7 The Game on the Morning Roast. Speaking of Kuminga and being around the team again last Wednesday at Chase Center, of course, we started this interview by playing that video tribute and your beautiful daughters with that great message there. What do you miss most about the day-to-day grind of being involved with an NBA organization?
I miss the people, first of all. I just don't get to see them as much. If you walked out of the show, you'd miss seeing Joe and the producers, and that's the first thing. I'm big into kind of, if I'm going to work somewhere for a long time, as hard as I did, I want to have relationships with the people. You mentioned, I haven't seen that documentary. I do want to watch it, but what it requires to be in professional sports, to work in it, is kind of everything. You give up time with your wife, your kids, your friends. You're not super relatable in many ways. Like you're missing all the barbecues and birthday parties because you work weekends, you travel. So this becomes kind of your second family. So the choice when you work in these things is, I'm going to lead into this and get to know people or not. And it's just all going to be about winning and losing. And I don't say one's right or wrong. For me, I wanted to, if I'm going to spend that much time in a situation, I want to develop relationships that matter and sustain themselves. So that's what I miss seeing, just seeing Steph Curry every day. It's a treasure to be around that guy, Kerr, Dunleavy, a lot of the guys, Rick Celebrating, a lot of the guys, even Draymond. Even Draymond. I do. I mean, I saw those guys last week, and I just smiled and just I miss them. And that's one part. And the other part would be the competition. It's a little bit like a drug, the adrenaline of competing. Every game, you feel that. It keeps you alive, keeps you, you're never bored, even though the losses are tough. They wear on you at times. But I'd say the friendships and the competition and being part of something where, you know, the best thing I did, the thing I'm most proud of is how happy our organization made the community. People, I think, and you guys maybe have a better lens into it, I think we really, over the time, a lot of people had a great time watching the Warriors. Like, they will remember where they were when we made the finals or we won something, or even when we lost something. We made people feel a lot in the time I was there, and they're still doing it, by the way,
right.
And still will keep doing it. But I think giving back to the fans from one that was a fan is something I never dreamed of. Like, kind of making people happy is not something I take lightly. And we gave some joy to a community that always supported the Warriors. Yeah. I mean, such an awesome fan base. So those things I would say.